of the Planning Commission. I'd like to call to order the meeting of September 23rd, 2025. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Zisser,
Here.
Commissioner Majewski. Here. Commissioner Alney.
Here.
Commissioner Buckbinder.
Present.
Commissioner Aquilina.
Here.
Vice Chair Fields.
Present.
And Chair Kamkar.
Present. Thank you very much. Okay, minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And are there any corrections or suggestions?
I'll move to approve the minutes of August 26th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If we can have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Zisser,
Aye.
Commissioner Majewski,
Aye.
Commissioner Alney,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Aquilina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields.
Aye.
And Chair Kamkar.
Aye. All right, thank you for that. So now we go to communications or agenda modifications or postponements.
Chair Kamkar, Commissioners, Robbie, Community Development Director, no communications, no agenda modifications.
Okay, thank you for that. Next is oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission on matters of community concern that are not listed on the agenda. In the interest of time, I may limit speakers to 5 minutes. Please be aware that state law prohibits the Commission from acting on non-agendized items. However, I may refer the matter to staff for follow-up. Are there anyone here in the gallery trying to address the Commission? Okay, seeing none, how about online? Anyone?
No one online?
No one online. Okay, thank you very much. So next we go to public hearing. Okay. The first one is Craig Avenue, 740 Craig Avenue. This is a variance. Public hearing to consider the application of Adrian Javlio, sorry if I butchered the name, to allow retention. Sorry, thank you. The retention of a driveway with a substandard side yard setback constructed in association with a residential addition and remodel project. On property located at 740 Craig Avenue, the application under consideration is a variance, file number PLN 2025-101. Staff is recommending this item be deemed categorically exempt from CEQA. Planning Commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. Project planner, Daniel Fama.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, could you ask for disclosures first?
I did not. Thank you for the reminder. Are there any disclosures and whether you've visited the project or not? So I have visited the project. Anyway, anyone on this side?
Yeah, I visited both locations, and the Craig Avenue location, I actually met the owner who was in his garage and approached me.
Okay.
And we had a brief general discussion. I introduced myself, so.
Okay, thank you for that.
I actually live around the corner from this property. I believe I'm outside of the
500
the 500 feet, but it's
Okay.
quite close. So I drive by this pretty much every day.
Okay, so you see it. And so I actually visited both places too, but just regarding this one. Okay, so thank you for that. So Daniel, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. So this is a public hearing to consider an application for a variance for 740 Craig Avenue. This is a single-family residential parcel located on Craig between Hazelwood and Hazel Avenues within the city's R16 single-family zoning district. For a bit of background, the city approved an administrative site and architectural review permit back in 2022 that allowed for a major addition and remodel to the residence, and that was actually an illustration from the application package. That work has been nearly completed. Upon staff inspection of the site, staff did identify that a driveway was not constructed per code. As the plan was originally approved, a non-conforming driveway that's actually shown on the bottom left from Google Street View was intended to be retained. However, the driveway was reconstructed and it did not comply with the city's requirement that new driveways have a 5-foot setback from side property lines. So upon discussions with the property owner, looking at ways it could be resolved, staff did indicate that he did have the ability to apply for a variance and seek an exception to the setback requirement if there were unusual circumstances that apply to his property. So the variance request in this case is to allow retention of the new driveway as it was constructed, basically at a 2-foot setback, as shown here in the middle illustration and on the right as well. So in terms of the scope of review, as more detailed in your staff report, in order to approve a variance, the Planning Commission must make specific findings. These are codified in the city zoning code, and the findings are modeled under state law. They cover a broad range of aspects, but are looking at typically challenges associated with the physical site itself that present kind of a difficulty or unnecessary practical hardship if the property had to fully comply with the standard, and also indicating that the approval of the variance wouldn't grant any sort of special privilege to the property owner. And again, I won't repeat all this, but I think the commission is fairly aware of the general context of a variance application. In terms of just kind of a high-level summary staff analysis, what initially instigated the request is excavation around the property perimeter to expose the crawl space and provide ventilation as recommended by the applicant's contractor. This created a grading differential with the adjacent property that then needed to be shored up with a retaining wall that was built along that fence line. So the retaining wall effectively took up 2 feet along the side property line, but then made it very difficult for a full 5 setback area to be normally utilized. In this case, if you had typically without that type of encumbrance, you could actually have a walkway or landscaping along that 5-foot setback. In this particular case, the applicant is looking to actually provide physical access to the ADU that's being constructed in the back. It's actually a conversion of a garage. However, with 2 feet of the site now encumbered by the retaining wall, the remaining 3 feet that's offset from the property line is really insufficient to create a dedicated pathway that's sufficiently distinct from the driveway as not to really be part of the driveway. So without that area, you would effectively have a walking path that's inside the driveway leading to the rear ADU. It could easily be blocked by a parked car. And so the core premise here is that without the variance, the property owner would have inhibited access to the ADU, and also then because of that would have full access and use of an ADU in a manner that is typically allowed for a single-family residential property. So therefore, in response to the recommended findings for a variance, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a variance to allow retention of the substandard side yard setback for the driveway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Commission Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for the staff?
I have a quick question.
Okay, let's start with Commissioner Gary Aquila.
Just as a matter of access to the rear unit in an emergency, fire department and other local emergency response teams have looked at this, or do you normally have them look at this?
They would look at it as part of the building permit review, but typically the fire department is more concerned about the building placement to the property line, not so much the side access. They would be able to access the property through the driveway typically. There's not actually a fire code requirement that speaks to driveways in a sense.
Well, I just mean the access from the driveway to the ADU in the event of an emergency. That
Yes.
3 foot or whatever it is would be adequate.
Yes, because again, their code requirement really is pertaining to the building itself.
I see.
With driveways, they typically, if vehicles need to be moved or otherwise getting around, they can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, just to make sure I understand. So the driveway reconstruction wasn't on the plans, and that's how it was over. So it wasn't noticed
Correct.
by the planning department or building or whoever looks at it. And so, so it just showed like the original, whatever the driveway was going to be there was going to be there.
Correct. It showed an existing paved surface with a notation that existing driveway.
Okay, did it show the retaining wall coming all the way out to the street?
It did not, because that was something that came up during construction.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair?
Not about this property, but about the city requirement. I live in a neighborhood where like every house is on this, like a 0 lot line. So like the driveways and the house is at 0 feet. And like the way, and now I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, if I ever want to replace my driveway, do I need a variance?
Well, if you wanted to replace it where it is, then yes, you would need a variance. Because otherwise, all new driveways, absent driveways that are shared amongst 2 property owners, you need to be separated by 5.
Wouldn't it be 10 feet though? Because each property would have to do 5 feet?
Well, yes, driveway to driveway 10 feet, but from the property line, 5.
What was the justification, what was the rationale behind adding this requirement?
You know, I did look at the 2004 file and didn't really speak to the reasoning why. I mean, our assumption is that it largely was an aesthetic standard just for more landscaping. There did not appear to be any other reason why.
Because and then like we seem to have made most people's driveways illegal, and think about that later. So I'll weigh in, but try not to color the merits of this project.
Sure. This is my own
Yeah, I would
curiosity.
say as an observation, given the multitude of housing laws that push for up to 10 units on a single family property, we'll be taking a relook at a driveway standard that's 5 feet out. Not aware of many jurisdictions that enforce a 5-foot setback standard, even prior to the current housing laws. And again, when the housing laws push cities to release standards that would impede you putting ADUs or lot splits or up to 10 units on the property, it's something we'll have to take a look at.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank you for that comment too, because my comment on this scenario was the original sin to me was not the reconstruction of a house and the pulling out of a driveway. It was the passage of a law that made over 90% of the property owners in the city non-conforming. And with a wave of a hand, they're all living in sin now. And as soon as they want to do something too much to the driveway, they got to come ask permission and do things. And I want to weigh that in this scenario that, you know, they went through how many approvals to get the house reconstructed, all these other things already, that I can only imagine what it's like to then have to come back for this. And I can sympathize with that.
You know, thank you for that comment, Commissioner Wojcicki.
I think my only thought, well, I guess there's nothing, the wall doesn't really do anything for this, but no, never mind. It's a,
I think we can. And also one thing I got to mention for our new commissioners, our decorum or our way of operating is after presentation, we should only ask questions. Afterwards, once everything's finished, then we can give our comments and our thing, but we reserve this one for questions, you know, basically.
So there's not a discussion period?
There is. Afterwards,
happen
you know,
yet.
just, yeah,
well.
we're not quite there yet.
Sorry, I was led astray.
No, it's my fault. I should have been more explanative. Now, I do have a question. I always thought that setback refers to a overgrown structure, not a driveway or an underground structure. So I'm really surprised that setback pertains to a driveway as well.
It technically is a different standard. I mean, there are setbacks that apply to buildings. And ironically, under state law, the setback that applies to buildings is actually now less. It's actually 4 feet.
Right.
This is just a separate standard I mean, I'm using the word setback because that's the typical way we describe a separation requirement, but I mean, technically, I don't think it's actually literally described as a setback. It's
Right.
a separation distance between the driveway and the property line.
So ideally, you would want the driveway and then like a little landscaping on the side of it. Or,
Yes, I mean, I think I provided an image in the staff report. So typically, it either could be landscaped, but on occasion, it can also serve as a pathway that's physically distinct from the driving surface of a driveway.
Yeah.
So those are really the two options
Yeah.
for most people.
Okay, so I will keep my comments for the, for the next one, for the next time coming up. Okay, so is the applicant here? Would you like to address the commission? Okay, please. Yes, please come to the podium. I'm going to open the public hearing. And so you have 5 minutes to address us or address whatever you heard.
Good evening. My name is Adrian Javello. This is my wife, Lulu Tang. We're
Welcome.
the owners of the house at 740 Craig Avenue, and we're here to apply for the variance for the house. Thank you, Daniel, for the presentation, and everything in there is correct. When we, during construction, we found that our house is lower than the house to our neighbor, and we preserved the foundation of the original part of the house, and we did not want to raise the floor because our sitting plans did not do so. So in order to properly expose the ventilation for the crawl space, we had to unearth about 10 inches in the back of the house. And then in the front of the house, it came out to about 6 inches for a proper gradient for when our contractor explained to us that we need a proper gradient for drainage in an event of rain. So we had to unearth that land, and then that necessitated the reason for why we had to erect the retaining wall to properly brace the fence between ours and our neighbors. So with that retaining wall, we went all the way to the front of the property. And then during construction, our driveway was mangled with a lot of the construction vehicles. So we repaved the driveway and paved up to the retaining wall. And we also want that retaining wall to be accessible for our elderly parents who are occupying the ADU as of right now.
Got it, okay. So I know I have a question,
Oh,
but.
one more
I'm sorry,
thing.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. And thank you for reminding me. We also, I forgot to submit this to Daniel, but we do have a signed petition of all of our neighbors saying that they acknowledge the frontage of our house and they're okay with it. So it's all of the surrounding neighbors in our home.
Very nice.
They all received a postcard. They said they could not be here today, but they support the frontage of our house. So
Wonderful.
we'd like to submit this to the city.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so I know I have a question, but I'm gonna start from this end. Do you have any questions for our applicants? No?
No questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. No questions?
It's my only, not really a question, but how are we making sure that access is maintained with like the driveway and the path? Do you have a visual marker or anything like that? I mean, it's your parents,
Oh,
but
no, yeah, there's not a visual, there's not like a border boundary that it really is just an extension of the driveway. I mean, our pavers does have a border, like a darker border around it, but it doesn't separate like that walkway from the rest of the driveway.
So my question, I'm not sure who should answer, but the retaining wall ends at the end of your property line, or does it continue onto the city, where you have an easement where sidewalks would normally be?
No, Daniel, if you could put up the slide again, it right up to the property line. It doesn't go into the
And
easement.
then there's no sidewalk on your street, is that what I was noticing?
Correct, yeah, so our zone is sans the sidewalk in
Yeah,
our
right.
area.
And so if there was gonna be a sidewalk added later, the retaining wall, like there's not an elevation or split, right, between your two lots now down at that, it's just gonna be a slope, I guess, if you add.
Yeah, the slope goes from 752, so when it rains, the slope goes from 752 Craig down the street and down that way.
Yeah, Phil, you can see this, You can see that it ends at the end of the driveway there in the middle picture.
Oh, yeah, behind the mailbox.
And they actually, the house next to them has the one sidewalk because it's on the corner.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right, so it ends there. And I believe it's pretty level
Yeah.
at that point. So
Can't tell.
if they ever extend that sidewalk, it
No big
looks
deal.
fine to me.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. So, I also visited the property and I'm a civil engineer, so actually I do this type of thing for a living. And I noticed you had used pavers, for the driveway, you could have used like dirt, asphalt, concrete, stamped concrete or pavers, and we chose pavers, which are probably the best, or the, most expensive way to go. But my question is, you had the choice of between so-called interlocking pavers where it's pervious and when the rain comes, instead of having it sheet over, it would just go in. Versus what you have, which then would sheet over, did the contractor ever give you that choice?
No, I actually, I'm not aware of the different types of pavers. So we went and purchased our pavers directly from,
Sure.
and I don't, sorry, I don't
Sure.
recall.
So there are two types, and so one type would let the water
The porous type,
between the
right?
joints,
Yeah.
not through the paver, but between the joints of the pavers.
I see, I see.
Little tiny gap, so water goes down, and so you actually would not have a drainage problem, unless it rains cats and dogs. That's
Yeah, we were very cognizant about how the drainage happens because we don't want the water pooling up into our foundation. So during construction of the pavers, I had my leveler out and making sure everything's flowing away from the house and also that the driveway has a proper gradient leading out to the street.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. I don't have any other questions. If not, then thank you for your testimony. You can have a seat. I'm going
Anybody
to,
else?
is there anybody online or
No one online to speak on this item.
no one online? Okay, so I'm gonna close public hearing. And then we're gonna have our discussion. So anybody has any discussion regarding site?
Yes, I'm on how rebuilding this driveway. So saying that warrant for having to move extra dirt or move the driveway over. Retaining wall was almost possible. That's the reason for variance.
Largely, the reason for the variance is that they desire access to the back. If they didn't have the grading differential, you would have the 5-foot area, and then you could arguably just do a standard walking path back there. But because the grading wall is effectively eating up 2 feet, the remainder 3 feet is really too narrow to create a distinct walking path that's physically separate, materially different than the driveway. And so because of the grading, because of the wall, it's difficult to get a path to the ADU, which is a reasonable request for the homeowner to have. And therefore, his solution is to physically just extend the driveway all the way up to the wall so that you can have a level surface to walk back to the ADU.
That makes sense. I just wanted to make sure I understood the reason why it's a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay.
Well-
Yeah, I just, I support this variance. After I went and read this and looked, it's like for the next, I saw it yesterday, and so for the next day or two, I'm looking at the houses I'm driving through to see where there's the 5-foot setbacks. And I actually this afternoon was at my son's house in Santa Teresa, and they have the 2 5-foot setbacks, and there's a oleanders, in the middle. Okay, so it's pretty typical in a lot of single-family homes, I think, that were built in a certain period of time in this area. So, I get the, who knows why, other than aesthetics, that they did that, but it's like, this makes sense with regards to the fact that they had to put the retaining wall in. It looks very nice. there's the fact is that, you know, if they didn't, if they did something where they had to put in some, actually use the extra 3 feet, then you're walking next, there's a really narrow way to walk next to the car to get to the side gate. And so here you got a clear path and it's very clean. There is no, obviously there's no landscaping there, but the neighborhood is such that it's all over the place in that neighborhood anyway. And this is a neighborhood that has the rural non-sidewalk area, and the what's in front in the non-sidewalk area is all over the place as well. So it seems to me it fits fine with the neighborhood. It's very clean looking. The paving is beautiful, and it totally makes sense to me. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay, any other comments? I'd like to make a comment is that I'm also in support of the variance for all the reasons stated. Plus, the other reason is that when we have an ADU, it would be nice to allow parking space for that ADU. Otherwise, we're encouraging people to park in the street. That's against our general desire. We rather that each unit takes care of their own parking and not burden the street with extra cars, you know. So to me, they did a good thing. And also what our director said, we should probably be looking at you know, I guess the rules and, you know, city ordinances to see maybe it needs to be adjusted. Maybe this should have been something that would even take care of over the counter rather than a full-fledged, you know, variance meeting. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's very sweet. They went and got all their neighbors to do it, but I wish they didn't have to do it. It just feels like,
I would also note that variances are not free.
Exactly.
It's not just the time.
So that's the other thing. Not just the time commitment, but the money and the resource, you know.
so.
Okay, great. So if there's no other comments, then I'm open to a motion. Anyone?
Make a motion to approve the variance.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a
Second.
Perfect. We got a motion and a second, Commissioner Bookbinder. We can do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Zisser,
Aye.
Commissioner Majewski,
Aye.
Commissioner Alney,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Aquilina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields,
Aye.
and Chair Kamkar.
Aye. Okay, wonderful. So this motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. All right.
Mr. Commissioner, before you go to the next thing, Mr. Chair, I made a mistake on the minutes approval. I had the wrong agenda up and I used the wrong date. I used the August 26th date. Did you catch it?
I
don't know if
thought
anybody-
so, but then I said no.
No,
Maybe
so it should have been the 9th of September. I don't know if we need to re-vote. on
September 9th agenda rather than the August 26th, yeah. Okay, well, thank you for correcting
Yeah.
that.
So,
Yeah, there wasn't another minute on the agenda. You don't.
okay. thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item. This is 1300 Dell Avenue conditional use permit. Public hearing to consider the application of Felicia Drewer to allow the continued operation of an existing large studio fitness training doing business as Sedusa Studios on property located at 1300 Dell Avenue. The application under consideration is a conditional use permit, file number PLN 2025-10. Staff is recommending that this item be deemed categorically exempt from CEQA. Planning Commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. Project planner, Mr. Stephen Rose.
Thank you and good evening, Chair Kamkar and members of the Planning Commission. So the particular project site is located at 1300 Dell Avenue in the Research and Development Zoning District located southeast of the intersection of East Hacienda and Dell Avenue. The particular tenant space is 3,200 square feet. It's located in a 3-tenant, 7,200 square foot commercial building. And the applicant's proposal is for a large fitness studio, which requires a conditional use permit in the Research and Development Zoning District. This particular site has been used for studios since 2006, so nearly 19 years now. And there have been no complaints about its operations, noise, or otherwise, and nor have there been any particular police concerns with the operation of this particular tenant. As a special use in our code, it is limited to 5 years in the Research and Development Zoning District. This is a limitation which was put into the code in 2008, and it was intended to safeguard industrial areas for industrial uses. In addition to providing like a term limit for studio uses in the Research and Development Zoning District, the code also does provide consideration for over-concentration of these types of activities. So the idea being we don't want to have every single tenant space turned into a studio. We look at those uses within 300 feet of its vicinity. And in this particular case, there are none. So that's not really a consideration we need to make in this particular permit, but I felt it was worth noting. Just in terms of the operations of the particular tenant, Sedusa, they do operate various classes and activities, which will permit up to 20 occupants at one time. That's also now inclusive of staff. They also conduct up to 4 special events per year. This entitlement will formally recognize that activity. It's been occurring, I think, off and on for several years now without incident. And this would be more specific to limiting those activities, which also invites really guests, like people to watch performances and that type of thing, up to 40 occupants at one time. The hours of operation would range from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. This is providing the broadest breadth of hours that our code allows for without being considered a late night activity. The intent of that is provide maximum operational flexibility for this business and fitness activities in general to operate and make the best and highest use of spot. Typically, fitness facilities, they need to operate before work hours or sometimes after. That's why early morning helps out. And then in terms of where the activities will occur, they're all occurring indoors with no outdoor sound or music in association with the use. In conclusion, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permit, allowing for the continued operation of the existing large fitness studio. With that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions for the staff?
Yeah, I just thought of one.
Go ahead.
I went to the website and read about it. I'm unfamiliar with this operation, but the events that would occur, they're apparently there, like bachelorette parties or all girls' night out kind of thing. I'm assuming that might involve having food and drink, and including alcohol. I don't know that, but if that were the case, do we have any restrictions on that?
I do know that the project applicant is available online, so she can speak a little bit more to the specifics of the operation. The events, in addition to bachelorette parties or otherwise, I think the general characterization in a lot of the materials that were provided is this is like friends and family of those who have been practicing, and kind of, it's like a showcase, almost like if you imagine if you have a different type of fitness facility use like karate, and there's a point in time during the year where they do a showcase and their friends and family invited to watch the activity. I do know the use does have ancillary retail sales on site, which is like minor fitness equipment that they'll sell on site. As far as special events having alcohol use, that this particular permit would not grant that. If they were to pursue such an activity, they'd need to obtain a 1-day liquor license minimally, and we need to evaluate how that would be permissible at this particular location. As far as food or snacks goes, I would have to defer to Felicia, who I know is online.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Go ahead, Vice Chair.
The permit expired in 2022, and we didn't notice. Do we audit these in any way? Like, and I feel like these don't happen constantly, but from time to time. So I have a question about like what happened.
It's a fair question. I will candidly say the city has maintained various different ways of tracking permit expirations over the years. Most notably, we maintain a system called a tickler. I don't know why it was called that, but that's what it was called, where we would be sent like an email notification to alert us of a permit expiration. In this particular case, it was either missed or not, tracked or logged in that particular case. It actually came to the city's attention when I believe another tenant was interested in operating a fitness studio in the area. We're going through that check at the counter, saying, are there other businesses within 300 feet of where they'd like to operate? And it kind of came to our attention, oh yeah, Sedusa has been here, obviously for 19 years and their permit had expired, and that we probably should do a little bit more due diligence. I'd say that since this permit has expired, the city's has established a new permitting software called My Government Online, which does allow us to set up an alert to let staff know, and even send notifications to applicants directly, so that they are also made aware that they'll need to come back in and apply for a new permit, hopefully prior to that expiration occurring.
And we're putting all the old stuff in it too.
It's challenging because again, it's two totally different non-congruent systems.
Yeah.
And these sometimes do rise to our attention when they come up.
Okay. And then my other question was, it looks like they submitted this in January and then we approved it in June and now it's late September. So that does seem long, but I don't know what all happened as part of it, but.
Yeah, so this permit was, when it originally came in, it was processed. We had a contract planner at the time. His name was Nishant Sioni. And, all permits, they go through a process by which they're reviewed and made sure that they are providing adequate materials and information about the continued nature of the use and activity. Presumptively, there had been rounds of completeness comments which were issued to try to figure out exactly how this operation works. I know in particular, there were some building code concerns which were raised with this most recent submittal that had not been raised in the preceding 19 years of its operation. So there's going to be an inspection of the property following any action on the permit tonight, where if they were to continue operating, we're going to make sure that it's being done in an accessible capacity and has appropriate signs limiting maximum occupancy and that type of stuff. I believe some of that was resulting in some delay in the review of the process, but then also just obviously handoff between the project and other timelines and commitments does result in delay in these. 9 months is unusually long.
Okay.
Candidly, these permits don't typically take more than 4 to 5 months to get to a decision. This was an unusual circumstance, just given the handoff.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
So a question?
I actually have a disclosure and a question, but I've taken many classes at this studio, I will say. But my question was, are there going to be classes starting at 6 and ending at 11, or is that more for instructors and admin type of things?
The idea is that the applicant's not requesting that, so I think that they are not proposing to change their operational hours. Again, Felicia could speak to it. In the applicant's written statement, their product description, I think it says what times. I could flip to that particular attachment. I don't think anything starts prior to 9 a.m. But understand this when we're approving uses, we're not looking at the particular tenant or their operation. Historically, planners do have this tendency of approving it just for exactly the hours that this particular applicant is requesting, without a lot of flexibility for future operators. If there were to be some other fitness indoor gym or weightlifting activity which we wanted to subsume this conditional use permit, it provides that flexibility so they could come in at an earlier morning hour and do those activities without yet again needing to get a modification or a new conditional use permit to make that happen. That's the idea.
But being in the industrial zone, it's presumptively not near residential, which would mean the normal people that would be aggravated by extended operating hours are just not present. So why don't we do us all a favor and be as permissive as possible?
I will add that was a consideration in expanding the hours. You don't have this low density residential or sensitive receptors nearby. It's pretty much abutting like a perk pond on one side, comparable industrial and commercial buildings on all other sides.
Okay, so I have two questions. So you said these permits have 5-year total. Then how are they able to be there for 19 years? I think I missed something.
Yeah, great question. So the code provides that there's a maximum period of time which the city may grant in any given single conditional use permit approval of 5 years. They can come back and get another use permit for 5 more years, and then 5 more years,
Got it.
and every 5 years rinse and repeat. In two cases, we've approved less than 5 years. When this business originally operated, it operated without the benefit of a permit. So we discounted the total number 5 to some lesser amount. In this particular case, again, recognizing that the conditional use permit has already expired, this permit would be, staff has recommended a slightly limited time period as well.
But is it permissible to make it for a full 5 from this day forward?
It is. So that's actually, if you read at the end of the report, there is an alternative. The very first alternative does speak to, rather than taking the staff approach, which staff is recommending that we do limit it as to kind of not reward the behavior of not getting a conditional use permit in a timely manner. It is ultimately the applicant's responsibility, the property owner's responsibility to ensure that they are maintaining a valid land use entitlement at all times. The city does do everything it can to try to provide notifications and alerts, and to reach out in the event that there is we drop the ball, so to speak. It's ultimately on them to make sure that that's happening. In this particular case, that did not happen. So the permit did expire, and rather than rewarding that expiration by giving a full 5 years, we pretty much discounted that time in which they were operating without the benefit of a permit. But that absolutely is something that the Planning Commission considered doing, is granting that 5 year, and the full 5 years allowed by code at tonight, by just taking the first alternative that's presented in the staff report.
And how many years, how long has it been since the expiration of the, exactly, it's over 2 years, right?
About 2 years, yeah. So I mean, I think this current permit would then run through January 20th of 2027.
Okay, so I have a second question. The second question is, I visited this, establishment yesterday. The doors were locked. So it wasn't open. But from a parking requirement, when I visited, I think it was around 11 a.m., maybe 11:30. Parking lot was full. And if you have 20 people, in your class, or even 10 people, what's the parking situation like?
Also a great question. It's a little bit complicated. This particular site and use does not technically require any parking per AB 2097. There's a discussion in the report that talks about parking obligations. What's interesting in the site is it does have an approved site approval, which did, I believe, establish, I think, 29 parking spaces on the property.
For the whole building?
For the whole building, all 3 tenant spaces, the 7,200 square foot building. What's happened in recent years is one of the other tenants at the rear of the building has kind of expanded their operation into those designated parking areas, blocking off access and creating kind of an outdoor storage area, which is not permissible by code. So as a separate code enforcement activity, the city has reached out to the landlord and that tenant to try to get corrective action. The idea is that there's meant to be a looped driveway that kind of surrounds the building, and restoring back all of those prior parking spaces that were per the 1960-something site approval, I believe.
Okay.
So just since you mentioned it, so I drove down and I had to turn around and drive back. So in theory, that's not really what it was supposed to do. I was looking for an out around the building.
That's correct. The site's served by 2 driveways, one on the northerly property line and one on the southerly, just actually shared with the other neighbor to the south. The idea is you're meant to kind of enter theoretically on the north and kind of do a loop and then come out. Because that's completely closed off to create an outdoor storage area. It's not even a permissible activity. It's not something the city could even allow that other tenant to do. They'll have to restore it back. It might take time to unwind that operation because I do think that they've done improvements outdoors, but that's a separate action. We're not penalizing this tenant for another tenant. But the idea is that we are working to restore back those parking spaces that are meant to be here, which will hopefully resolve the occupancy number. And yeah, there's also street side parking, I should mention, in addition to the on-site.
Okay, if there's no other question for staff, then we'd like to hear from the applicant. I'm going to open the public hearing.
If anyone online would like to speak, raise your hand. I recognize Felicia Drake. You have been allowed to speak.
Hello, good evening to you all. Thank you so much for your time and efforts into all this. So I took a couple notes throughout that. First with the events. So the events that we outlined in the, I believe it was the project description or project plan, specifically referred to when we have showcases, which pretty much is like our students, who have been working really hard and want to show their friends and family, the skills that they've acquired, and put on a performance for them. And so that's when we have like a larger crowd. The bachelorette parties, and girls' night out parties, we've always kind of considered them falling more into like our class type of structure. It's like a facilitated lesson where, everyone learns something. We definitely do not allow alcohol or food on the premise, mainly because we don't want to clean up food and because, alcohol and dancing would be very, very dangerous and huge liability. So we absolutely don't have that in the facility. And then the other thing that came up was hours. And yeah, we typically have classes pretty much from 5 p.m. to about 9 p.m. right now. That's our solid schedule, 5 days a week. We have that. And then sometimes we have daytime classes on Saturday and Sundays. We don't have any early morning classes right now. We have in the past, but it's not a thing that tends to be very popular with our clients. So we don't have that. And yeah, most of our classes are in the evening, after people get off of work. It is, an adult only studio since it's pole dance. So we don't typically have many problems with, parking with the nearby businesses, luckily, because they don't really overlap. Yeah, is there any other questions for me?
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions?
Yeah,
for the-
I've got a question. Felicia, the issue about the expiration of this, it seems to me you've gotten new certificates since this has been going on for 19 years. You've gotten new certificates at least two or three times.
Yeah.
It fell by the wayside. So I was wondering what happened there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually bought the studio, so I was, doing owner finance to buy the studio beginning in 2017. So, I started as a student there and just fell in love with it and began teaching, and then eventually bought the studio. And so when I bought it, I'll take responsibility. I should have done more due diligence, but I didn't even know that we were not zoned correctly and that we had a conditional use permit. This wasn't something that the previous owner told me. And so, continued to pay the business license every year, and I thought that was sufficient. And so it was quite a surprise when I got the notice in November that our conditional use permit had expired. And yeah, so I reached out right away and was, let's resolve this. But I definitely, yeah, I should have done more due diligence around that when I bought the studio. And yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Felicia? Hearing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there anyone online that would like to comment?
Anyone else online would like to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing no hands raised, no one online would like to speak.
Okay, so I'm going to close public hearing. Back to staff. Any additional reports? No.
Nothing to add. No.
Okay, so now we're gonna get our discussions, if any, regarding this issue.
Okay, I'll go if nobody else is. I support, giving them a new conditional permit. And, I think, sometimes stuff slips through the cracks here and with businesses as well. So it seems to me if we give them a short-term one, it's only going to be 2 years and change here before they have to come back for another one. So it seems like unnecessary. I would support giving them 5 years from this point. The business has been around for a long time. She bought the business 2017, so she's even had the business for quite some time. So it seems to me it's a good business. We don't have any complaints. And so I would support 5 years from this point on if other commissioners are agreeable to that.
Okay, any other comments? Go ahead, Adam.
I'm just, I'm aware that a conditional use permit is a non-trivial thing to go through, and nothing on their end is going to change every 5 years. I feel like if we're doing streamlining this year, this is something we should look at, maybe bump this kind of repeating thing down to an administrative permit if we want to have it re-looked at every so often. I know this are a lot faster and cheaper, because we're not going to suddenly look at this and say, something that a business that there's no complaints about that we approved 5 years ago, we're suddenly not going to approve. I don't think I think we could streamline this. And as for this particular use, I agree with Commissioner Zisser that if we're going to re-up this in the same fashion 5 years from now is obviously the right thing to do.
So I have a clarifying question before I go to the next speaker. We could go anywhere from 2.5 to 5. It could be 4, it could be 1.5, right?
That's correct. Anything less than 5.
Anything less than 5. Okay, next.
So I think my only concern is, are we going down a slippery slope? Taking Adam's concerns into account that, yeah, it's an expensive process, it takes time, but what's to stop another business from saying, oh, I forgot? Yeah. And coming back and saying, can you just, grant me now, I'm 4 years late, I want 5 years.
I mean, it's the city's responsibility to handle that, right? I mean, this would not have happened if the city hadn't lost track.
Or the previous owner didn't tell Felicia that, it's expired or it's expiring on a certain date.
Like, if the city had remembered, and I understand things like losses, not the city is bad, but I don't think, no matter how much an owner wants to pretend that they forgot it, the city will show up and say, hey, you got to re-up.
Except when you don't.
I think we should be able to rely on the city to do this.
Okay. I understand your point and accept it. I still think it could be a slippery slope.
So Phil, how many years do you recommend if we were to up anywhere between 2.5 to 5?
Well, part of me would say, make them get a 2-year permit. And yes, it's unfortunate, but at least it keeps a standard that was adopted by the city. And I could go along with 5 as well, but I don't know. Part of me wants to say there's 2 sides on this that both kind of missed something. So, quote unquote, who has to pay that? Yeah. Or does anybody have to pay that?
Well, your concern is about setting precedents,
That too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay. My comment, a couple is, I might suggest that if we're going to do a vote, we try for the full 5, and if there's not enough votes for that, then try for something less.
Also try a straw.
Yeah, something like that. Then we can kind of know where we can say yes and where we can't. My personal view is, as much as I'm sympathetic to the moral hazard, I just think living in grace with some mercy has its merits that we all benefit from too. And if we can, is it permissible to log as a note that we did this special dispensation in the granting of this, so that if it were not renewed timely next time, no such further grace would then be likely to occur.
It's recorded in the action, yeah, so the resolution would reflect the time that was granted by the planning commission and when, if and when this item does return, in its 5-year or whatever particular timeline that's established tonight, that would also be reflected in the background, in the staff report saying what had happened, and just like tonight's item had been presented.
And the thing that weighs in my mind, thank you for that, and what weighs in my mind about precedents and moral hazard is we got no complaints in 19 years of business, and there has to be a value to our community of that is worthy of something in this thing. And we ourselves are benefited by not reviewing another likely to be approved variance sooner than we have to. So I think everybody can win in the hopes that we're not starting a snowball that buries us all.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner
Yeah,
Majewski.
I'm in agreement of extending for 5 years. I don't think we should be penalizing. I don't really see the broader purpose of that. This is like everyone else has said, it's a very established business. I'd rather Miss Drake spend her time working to help her students than having to go through a permit process in 2 more years personally. That's my view.
Can I make an additional point?
I'm sorry, let me see if there's any other.
I think you got everybody, except you.
Well, no, there's two of us that haven't talked yet, but why don't you go first and then?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I do feel like the onus should be on the city to notify our CUPs. Having gone in depth on them, they're different city by city. We've had chains in here that have multiple locations that are confused why Campbell has requirements that other local cities don't. Like, I think the onus is on us to talk to the businesses about this, and hopefully we can automate this more over time. This seems like a very AI-friendly kind of thing to be looking at. So I'm very supportive of 5 years in this instance because I think we should have let them know. Feels very defensible. So.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to, I agree with I always get your first name and last name.
Yeah. Commissioner Davis.
Commissioner Davis. I mean, we've been together for 4 years. I should know.
It's all right. You'll get it.
But I'm old. Okay, so I agree with your take on that. But the other thing is just to assuage newer commissioners. I've been on the commission for 5 years now, and we haven't seen, as far as I know, these kinds of problems. So it's not like we see a lot of, like you see, if any, businesses who forget, maybe there's been 1 or 2 in 5 years, but where they forget and it goes away. So I don't think there's much of a risk of it being a snowball effect. I don't think in general businesses will take advantage of this particular one that we do. So I don't see it as an issue, and I do agree with Commissioner Davis that we should have a better. It's nice to hear that we have a new system that hopefully would resolve this issue and notify. It seems to me the city has a obligation to notify. The businesses should look on their wall and see whatever way they figure out. It's like, to me, it's understandable that these kind of things go by the wayside, but we should have a system in place. It's not that hard, I don't think, to, you got a list and then, the dates come up and it's Silicon Valley. So I think maybe we take a straw poll if you have after you have your comments.
Right.
Take a straw poll on where we are.
So my feeling is, I definitely don't want it to be punitive. We don't want to penalize person, but at the same time, I think we got to act in a way where people who don't let their conditional use permits expire don't feel like, I shouldn't have worked so hard because they're just going to overlook it anyway, And so my feeling would have been not 2.5, not 5, maybe like 4 years, just something so that we want her to continue going, but at the same time, there's got to be responsibility there as well, you know, and so that's what I was going to suggest. But I feel that, you know, the majority does support 5 years, you know, and so I'm open for a motion to,
I'll make a motion that we go with the alternative proposal to grant a full 5-year conditional use permit.
okay?
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Zisser,
Aye.
Commissioner Majewski. Aye. Commissioner Alney,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Aquilina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields,
Aye.
and Chair Kamkar.
Aye. Wonderful. Okay, so this passes 7-0 as well. Congratulations, Felicia, if you're still online. Now we go a closed public hearing. Did I close public hearing? I think I did. Okay, so next, next item is, let's see, sorry, I gotta get my
Any subcommittee?
subcommittee board, that's right. Are there any subcommittee reports? No? Okay, I'm actually, I need to make an explanation. There was one subcommittee that gave its last report before our 2 new commissioners joined. And I believe that subcommittee has now disbanded. There's one ongoing subcommittee, which I am the sole member of, you know, and I would like to maybe talk to the new commissioners, see if they're interested in being part of that subcommittee, if you want to, you know, continue going. Next one after that, let's see. So since there's no subcommittee reports, the next item, I believe, is director.
I'll make it
New
somewhat
business, yeah,
quick.
sorry.
So question for the chair, all your subcommittees have concluded business except for the one with you and former
Land use,
Commissioner
right.
Strauss-Fee.
Right.
And just clarification, because we put the agenda out like each month, did you want to keep that as a standing item at this point? It's subcommittee of 1 as of this point.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, I would say yes for now, you know, until I've had a chance to talk to the new commissioners, see if any of them are interested, or actually our existing commissioner or our continuing commissioners, if any of them are interested in, you know, joining that subcommittee. And if not, then next time we probably take it off, you know, if there was no takers. Okay, thank you for that report.
Yeah, just a couple updates. Last Tuesday at council meeting, 2 items of note to the commission. One is council extended an urgency ordinance on one of the multitude of state laws that we're implementing. This is the starter homes that allow up to 10 units on a vacant single-family property. And the city had adopted an urgency ordinance, extended that ordinance to the end of the year. Staff, notably Senior Planner Daniel Fama, continues to work on a omnibus ordinance. You've seen previews of this about 6 months ago that will come back and have the city at a point in time catch up to state laws and clean up a lot of miscellaneous things. So that was item number 1 last week.
Yeah, I had a question regarding that. So you mentioned vacant properties. This is in single family zoning, correct?
That is
No-
correct. Yeah.
Well, it's not just big.
Right,
Both those statements are correct.
okay.
It is, to clarify, multifamily zoning and the addition of the recent state law was in vacant single.
Thank you.
The second one's kind of exciting. The city had a ULI tap done. What is ULI tap? Urban Land Institute is a coalition of kind of real estate development professionals, economists, planners that look at just urban development in general and what goes into actually making projects work. They have a service called Technical Advisory Panel, where they get a panel of real estate development professionals together. They'll come to your jurisdiction for a pretty low fee. They'll come and study an issue over a very short period, 2 to 3 days, and come back with a series of recommendations of things you might not have thought about. This was one of the top priorities in the economic development plan. And the area focused is that area between downtown and the Prune Yard, so that corridor of East Campbell, to which city's done some investments in trying to liven up, like the portlets, and we have the Cressley Housing Project coming along. There's always been an intent of the city how to reinvigorate that area, sort of bridge that gap between these two anchors on one side, the Pruneyard and the downtown. They came last week, arrived Sunday. Monday, they did a walking tour. They interviewed about 40, 50 people, a lot of speed interviews on their perspectives on it. I think Commissioner Buckbinder was asked about a lot of active transportation perspectives. They came back to the city council and did a presentation on Tuesday, and they'll give us a report in about a month or two. So the four big recommendations, and a lot of this crosses right over in land use, so that's why I wanted to give it to you. One is to have the city focus not on replicating the downtown, but to do high density residential development in this corridor as a feeder to the downtown and the Pruneyard. That's how they characterized it. Residences to support those commercial cores, number one. Number two, consider more multimodal improvements and even perhaps a road diet. I know that can be contentious with some folks on that corridor, going from 4 lanes either down to 3 or 2. Number three, a lot more wayfinding. If you're in downtown, you know, the Pruneyard's there. You've seen these inner downtowns, 5-minute walk gets you to the Pruneyard or the park or something like that. So putting more active wayfinding in. And also helping folks finding our parking garages. They, and I think Mayor observed, a lot of folks know where the 2nd Street parking garage, but there's a 1st Street parking garage that seems totally underutilized. So helping folks right there. And then the last one was just better marketing. There's a lot of downtown events, and separately there's Pruneyard events, but to do some sort of cross marketing just to bring these two anchors together. So more to come, but wanted to pass that on. I'm happy to forward PowerPoint to the commission if you'd like to take a look. And in the coming months, we'll look at how we put those into potential work plan items to look at. Last two things, and I'll let you get out of here. Still opportunities if you want to participate in citywide multimodal plans. So there's a slick online map where you can identify, put a bike lane here, or there's traffic issues here, or you can go on a bike audit or a walk audit with staff if you haven't signed up. And then last but not least, those commissioners who've gone to the Planning Commissioners Academy, they're still asking for session panels if you want to give back. And for our 2 new planning commissioners, I think I pushed this out before, and I'll push out again. March 11 to 13 in Anaheim is the Planning Commissioners Academy for next year. So we'll work with sign up.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, thank you very much.
One thing I just wanted to show on our radar is that I was hoping we'd know one way or the other, but tomorrow, Gavin Newsom will or will not sign SB 79. He has not in his entire tenure let a bill lapse without either signing or explicitly vetoing it. Where SB 79 is the apartment buildings near transit bill that they've been trying to do for the last 8 years and finally made it to the legislature this year, would cover some enormous swath of Campbell and would have like a really significant effect on pretty much everything from Hamilton down to Winchester. So there's nothing to report, but there's something's going to happen tomorrow.
He signed it already, I thought, no? I thought it got approved. I got signed.
It went through the legislature. Let me just check the news.
That's what I know. Yeah, I haven't seen the governor's signature, but it has passed.
He would make
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I saw something online about it. I didn't really know about it. Adam, what does that do that can't already be done? Because we've been talking about high density near transit stops for years, which I was under the impression with density bonus and everything else, all those things were going to be allowed in terms of high rises. So I don't understand what this. So I know, but it's already high rises.
Rob can weigh in because we've been tracking it extremely closely. And we actually had some suggestions to the bill. They actually accepted. So it broadly preempts zoning and allows up to, based on the transit stop, 75 to 100 units per acre as the floor. Not all of our densities, we have densities at 75 units per acre for some parcels, not all parcels in Campbell. But within these broad rings, which Adam mentioned, just a half-mile radiuses, basically you have to allow at least a minimum of 75 to 100 units per acre. Under density bonus today, you could start at say 45 or 50 and use density bonus to go higher, but it raises the floor of the minimum density. We do have a concern. I think city have concern that in the downtown area, it's, it doesn't have a character that's high density. It's some call it historic, and we're likely coming to the council. There's guess I'll back up. There's an option in the plan to have an alternative plan, where rather than just allowing blanket 75 to 100, you can shift densities out of, say, areas you don't want high density and put it in other areas. So we do intend, assuming it passes into law, to go to the council and ask for areas like the downtown and perhaps for single-family neighborhoods, should the city develop a plan where it reallocates the density in the areas.
Okay, so we're mostly concerned, I didn't think about the fact that downtown, in theory, we could have an 8 or 10 story or 12-story building. So where does that fall in? Because one of the things that I learned from the housing element and the general plan is that historical areas are exempted from some of this, if I'm not mistaken. Is the downtown an official historical neighborhood?
Nothing that's recognized under federal, state, or I think even local ordinance. And structures by themselves, yes, thank you, Commissioner Buckbinder, but as a district itself. True, yeah, there are historic buildings, but not a district.
All right, so it's not as a district. We have never gotten a historical designation. Okay. Maybe we should.
Okay, thank you for that. We are adjourning the Plan Commission meeting to the date of October 14th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at City Hall. Council Chambers. Thank you. Bye-bye.